Ladies and gents, welcome back. When the media ignores a story, well, that is a clear sign that it is a hard-hitting one. We had this story recently. I covered this on the channel. Court documents reveal Canada's travel ban had no scientific basis. In this story, we go on to learn via a court case where two Canadians took the government to task on the COVID travel restrictions. We learned that the government had no scientific basis. In fact, they were scrambling for reasons to impose these restrictions on Canadians, even though they didn't have any scientific reason to do so. This is a common sense article written by Rupa Subramanya. She recently put out on Twitter, media ignores huge Trudeau travel ban scandal story. This is a massive story. If you had media of any integrity, this should be all over it. This is a very big story. Scathing commentary on mainstream Canadian media's lack of interest on my story. And this is from a podcast courtesy of speaker.com, where the host talks specifically about that. I'll put a little excerpt here.
Court documents reveal Canada's travel ban had no scientific basis. This is a massive story. And if you're from outside of Canada listening to this or watching this, the Trudeau government placed a travel ban in Canada on anybody who wasn't fully vaccinated, whatever that means. Apparently it doesn't mean anything, but a travel ban on anybody not fully vaccinated, so you couldn't get on a plane or a train in Canada. And that ban lasted 8 months up until June of this year. So just to put it into perspective for you, there are 5 million Canadians who couldn't travel by plane or train. And of course it was claimed by Trudeau that they're just following the science. Apparently the only Western country following the science. Well, it turns out it wasn't the science. They weren't following the science at all, and that is exposed in this article. So this is a massive story of political corruption that had a very negative impact on millions of Canadians, on the economy. It's a big story. Well, here's a tweet from the journalist who wrote the story that I covered in my video. It would be a shame if mainstream Canadian media ignored such an obviously important story. It's been a little more than 24 hours since my story broke, and more than 2 weeks since the documents became publicly available. Looking the other way on something this important is a bad look. Well, it's a bad look if you care about looking good for the public, but it's a very good look if you care about looking good for the Prime Minister.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, I'll leave a link in the description where you can listen to the whole excerpt from that podcast. But this is a tweet put out by Rupa Subramanya. People replying to it. We got Chloe George saying complete media blackout on this. And it's a huge story that everyone in a country whose government seriously overreached and abused their powers during a COVID could relate to. Jay here taking to Twitter to say, this is why is the Canadian corporate government controlled media ignoring Rupa Subramanya's scoop that Justin Trudeau government lied about the science to impose charter defying travel ban for millions of Canadians. When did the CBC become a propaganda arm for Trudeau? Well, I'll tell you when. Here's the National Post telling you when. CBC paid out $30 million in bonuses during the first 2 years of COVID-19 pandemic, where 1,033 full-time employees who received bonuses. That's an average of about $14,800 per employee. Over the course of the pandemic, the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, a crown corporation, by the way, that's paid for by tax dollars, they can't make a penny in the free market. So the government, Trudeau's government, gave them the media complex got what, 1.6 billion dollars during this pandemic. But the over the course of the pandemic, the Canadian Broadcast Corporation paid out more than $30 million in bonuses, according to Access to Information documents. The documents first obtained by Blacklock Reporter shows that in 2020. Anyway, I'll leave a link for this article in the description down below. But they're not the only ones who got bonuses during this time. Hey, did you get a bonus? Any of you, did you get a bonus That's a question to put in the comments down below. When everyone had their businesses shut down, told to stay home, can't go to work, did anyone get a bonus? I didn't get a bonus. Who's getting bonuses these days? Hey, Dr. Hinshaw gets a $250,000 COVID bonus. This week, Albertans were shocked to learn that the province's chief medical officer of health, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, received a just over $250,000 COVID bonus in addition to her $364,000 salary. This marks the largest cash benefit paid out of any provincial civil servant. Amazing, amazing. This is from True North. Again, links in the description. Check it out for yourself. This is a part of a podcast put together on True North, so check that out. But this is everyone's getting bonuses except the general public. Hey, CBC whistleblower quit over COVID propaganda. So why are we ignoring big stories? Well, maybe because they have become the propaganda wing of the Trudeau government. And this is an article from the Counter Signal from back in July 12th, 2022. On the Trishwood podcast, former CBC reporter Marianne Klawak said that the network lost its journalistic integrity in June 2021 when COVID vaccines became widely available and mandates were on the horizon. I tried to push through a number of stories that were censored and canceled. We were no longer committed to the truth and honesty, Klawak told Wood. Klawak described how she wanted to show both sides of the vaccine debate and let viewers decide for themselves. At the time, she was finding concerning data coming out of Israel, the country where vaccines were available months before most others like Canada, and thought it was newsworthy. CBC disagreed. Now, you can take what you want from that, but when you have reporters from an organization who have integrity quitting over the propaganda that's being put out on their network, this is why we can see that stories like this need to be shared out as far and wide as possible. So I'll definitely be leaving a link in the description down below where you can share this story out, put it out on your social media, put it out everywhere you can, because no reporters are grabbing onto this at the moment. Of course, the good news organizations like the Counter Signal, True North, publications like that are grabbing onto it. But not the big players in the Canadian market. You're not going to see this story on Global News, CBC, CTV. It's just not going to be there. They are not touching this one because, well, I guess we know why. Because that might be a paycheck for them. So anyway, I'll leave that question down in the comments. Let me know both. Have you received a bonus during this whole COVID thing? Or do you trust the media? Do you think that they're the propaganda wing of the Trudeau government, or do you think they're impartial? Do you think that we're wrong about this? That it's actually a good service for the general reader? Are they being fair in their coverage? I honestly don't believe they are. But you can leave your comment down below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do that now. Hit that notification bell so you know when I go live or post new videos. Please hit that like button to help spread the word through the algorithmic gods. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.